Shalom, shalom, shalom. Most High in Christ bless to each and every last one of you. It is July 29th. This is the last Sabbath of the month. And so here we are. We are here in the Lord's house. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. Share your thoughts, share your questions and ideas and so on and so forth. Anyway, let us get into the reading of the law, and then we are going to get into today's topic. Oh, and before I forgot, I want to give all glory and honor to the Most High. We want to give glory and honor to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. We want to salute the bishops of the various camps. Those, which again, we are speaking about honorable men. We want to salute the deacons and the captains and the officers and the soldiers and the brothers in their respective places. We want to salute the mothers and the wives and the sisters and the daughters. All right. Now let's get into the reading of the law and on to the topic. Ecclesiasticus chapter 39, verse 1. But he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High and is occupied in the meditation thereof will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient and be occupied in prophecies. He will keep the sayings of the renowned men, and where subtle parables are, he will be there also. He will seek out the secrets of grave sentences and be conversant in dark parables. He shall serve among great men and appear before princes. He will travel through strange countries, for he hath tried the good and the evil among men.
To send the impure from the temple. Numbers 5 and 2. Command the children of Israel that they put out of the camp every leper, and every one that had an issue, and whosoever is defiled by the dead.
Impure people must not enter the temple. Numbers chapter 5, verse 3. Both male and female shall ye put out, without the camp shall ye put them, that they defile not their camps in the midst whereof I dwell.
Impure people must not enter the temple, Mount Era. Deuteronomy 23 and 11. But it shall be, when evening come on, he shall wash himself with water, and when the sun is down, he shall come into the camp again.
Impure Kohanim must not do service in the temple. Leviticus chapter 22, verse 2. Speak unto Aaron and to his sons, that they separate themselves from the holy things of the children of Israel, and that they profane not my holy name in those things which they hallow unto me. I am the Lord.
An impure Kohen following immersions must wait until after sundown before returning to service. Leviticus 22 and 7. And when the sun is down, he shall be clean, and shall afterwards eat of the holy things, because it is his food.
A Kohen must wash his hands and feet before service. Exodus chapter 30, verse 19. For Aaron and his sons shall wash their hands and their feet thereat.
A Kohen with a physical blemish must not enter the sanctuary or approach the altar. Leviticus 21 and 23. Only he shall not go into the veil, nor come nigh unto the altar, because he hath a blemish, that he profane not my sanctuary. For I am the Lord for I am the Lord, do sanctify them.
A Cohen with a physical blemish must not serve. Leviticus chapter 21, verse 17. Speak unto Aaron, saying, whosoever he be of thy seed in their generations that hath any blemish, let him not approach to offer the bread of his God.
A Cohen with a temporary blemish must not serve. Leviticus 21 and 17. Speak unto Aaron, saying, whosoever he be of thy seed in their generations that hath any blemish, let him not approach to offer the bread of his God.
One who is not a Cohen must not serve. Numbers chapter 18, verse 4. And they shall be joined unto thee, and keep the charge of the tabernacle of the congregation, for all the service of the tabernacle, and stranger shall not come nigh unto you.
To offer only unblemished animals. Leviticus 22 and 21. And whosoever offereth a sacrifice of peace offering unto the Lord to accomplish his vow, or a free will offering is in beeves or sheep, it shall be perfect to be accepted, that there shall be no blemish therein.
Not to dedicate a blemished animal for the altar. Leviticus chapter 22, verse 20. But whosoever hath a blemish, that shall ye not offer, for it shall not be acceptable for you.
Not to slaughter a blemished animal for the altar. Leviticus 22 and 22. Blind or broken or maimed or having a wing or scurvy or scab, ye shall not offer this unto the Lord, nor make an offering by fire of them upon the altar unto the Lord.
Not to sprinkle the blood for the altar of an animal which has a blemish. Leviticus chapter 22, verse 24. Ye shall not offer unto the Lord that which is bruised or crushed or broken or cut, neither shall ye make any offering thereof in your land.
Not to burn the fat for the altar of an animal which has a blemish. Leviticus 22 and 22. Blind or broken or maimed or having a wing or scurvy or scab, ye shall not offer these unto the Lord, nor make an offering by fire of them upon the altar unto the Lord.
Not to offer a temporarily blemished animal. Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 1. Thou shalt not sacrifice unto the Lord thy God any bullock or sheep wherein is blemish, or any evil favoredness, for that is an abomination unto the Lord thy God.
Not to sacrifice blemished animals, even if offered by non-Jews. Leviticus 22 and 25. Neither from a slaughtered hand shall ye offer the bread of your God of any of these, because their corruption is in them, and blemishes be in them. They shall not be accepted for you.
And we will start with 341 next time, Lord willing. We'll start with 341 next time, Lord willing. All right. Okay, so today's topic, the title for today's class is Death by Assimilation. Death by Assimilation. Okay. We want to start with, we're going to go into the Bible, and we're going to start with Psalms 137, verse 4 through 6.
Book of Psalms, chapter 137, verse 4. how shall we sing the Lord's song in a strange land?
How shall we, the children of Israel, how shall we sing the Lord's song in a strange land? To sing of all the joy, all the happiness, all the ups and downs and everything. How can we sing that in a strange land? Go ahead.
Hi, if I forget thee, O Jerusalem,
if I forget thee, O Jerusalem, forget the land, forget my people, forget my customs. Go ahead.
if I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning.
Let my right hand forget her cunning. Let my right hand forget the works. Let my right hand forget how to do all those things beneficial to my ongoing life existence. Go ahead.
If I do not remember thee, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth.
If I forget Jerusalem, oh Jerusalem, my land, my people, my God, if I forget, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth, that I cannot even speak words. Go ahead.
If I prefer not Jerusalem above my chief joy.
Above my chief joy, right? So this passage right here, Psalms 137, 4-6, here we are discussing if I forget. If I forget. And why would I forget? Because here I am in a strange land. Here I am in a strange land. Okay. All right. Let's go to First Maccabees. First Maccabees, chapter 1, and we want to read verses 20-53. First Maccabees, chapter 1, we want to read verses 20-53.
Book of First Maccabees, chapter 1 and verse 20. And after that, Antioch had smitten
Antiochus,
sorry about that. And after that, Antiochus had smitten Egypt. He returned again to the 143rd year and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude.
Now, Antiochus is an Edomite. Okay. Antiochus is an Edomite. And after he had verses 19 and backwards, he has dominated, he has toppled Egypt. Now, after toppling Egypt, he's going to backtrack, and now he comes to Israel so that he could subdue Israel. Okay. And he does. Go on to verse 21.
21. And entered proudly into the sanctuary and took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light and all the vessels thereof.
So all these things, verse 21, were the things that are in the sanctuary for the service of worship. These are things that were in the sanctuary for the service of worship. Here comes this man. He topples, he subdues our ancestors, and then goes into the sanctuary and takes those instruments that are made of gold and of silver and so forth. Okay, go ahead.
22. And the table of this shewbread and the pouring vessel,
Pouring vessels.
Pouring vessel, and the vial, and the censers of gold, and the vial, and the crown.
And the veil and the crown. Go ahead. And the veil and the crown. Go ahead.
And the crown, and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off.
So he's taking he's taking everything that is in sight in the sanctuary. Go on.
He took also silver and the gold and precious vessels. Also, he took the children's treasure, which
he took the hidden treasures, which he found. Go ahead.
the hidden treasures which he found. Like that. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre.
Massacre.
I said massacre first in my mind. Massacre, and spoken very proud.
So he comes into the land, he kills countless people, great massacre. He kills countless people, our ancestors, and then he takes every precious artifact that is precious to us, that constitutes our way of worship, constitutes our way of culture, therefore constitutes our way of being. Right? Go on.
25. Therefore, there was a great mourning in Israel in every place where they were.
So because of this, the people cried. The people cried with a great cry. Go on.
26. So
26. Let me help you out.
So that the princes and elders mourned, the virgins and the young men were made feeble, and the beauty of women was changed.
And the beauty of women was changed, right? So now she's not looking beautiful. She's not looking dainty. She's not looking well dressed and hair well set. Now she's looking dusty. Now she's looking toe up. Why? Because she's made to mourn. She's made to witness the atrocity of her father being put to death, the atrocity of her husband being put to death, the atrocity of her son being put to death. Okay, go on.
27. And every bridegroom took up lamentation.
And every bridegroom took up lamentation. Go on.
And she that sat in the marriage chamber was in heaviness. The land also was moved for the inhabitants thereof. And all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion.
And the whole house of Jacob, the entire house of Jacob. Now, this is in the time period of the Maccabees. So in the time period of the Maccabees, most of the northern kingdom had already left the region. We read about that in 2nd Ezra chapter 13. But that's not to say that there isn't a remnant of the northern kingdom, Naphtali, Zebulun. We read about that in Luke, I believe Luke chapter 4, where Christ mentions Naphtali and Zebulun. Okay. But the whole house of Jacob, they're like, what's going on? How did this come about? Read.
29. And after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the city of Judah.
So now Antiochus says, all right, go and take money from them. I need money. They're not going to stay in the land that I have conquered without paying me taxes. Go ahead.
Who came into Jerusalem with a great multitude.
And so they didn't come 1, 2 people. They came with a host, just in case the men of Judah determined, when they come back, we're going to fight. Oh, yeah? Oh, we're going to send a host to deal with you. You're going to pay. You're going to pay us taxes. This is our land now. Okay, go ahead.
30. And spake peaceable words unto them. But all was deceit.
Go on.
For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city and smote it very sore and destroyed much people of Israel.
So he came about He said, all is well, all is well, all is well. We come to collect taxes. We come to collect the tribute. People thinking that all is well. So they're at ease. And here comes another slaughter. Out of nowhere. Here comes another slaughter. Go on.
31. And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire and pulled down the house and walls thereof on every side.
So as they're killing and they walking through, they take their torch, they set this house on fire, they set that house on fire, they pull down the front wall so the house is not standing properly now. Right? Go on.
32. But the women and children took they captive and opposed
And possessed
the cattle.
So they killed all the men. They took the women, they took the children, and they took the cattle, goats, sheep, oxen. They took that and claimed that for themselves. Go ahead.
33. Then built they the city of David with a great and strong wall and with mighty towers, and made it a stronghold for them.
Go ahead.
And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein.
And fortified. So they said, hey, now that we can kill all these people, we're going to put our people in this place. Let our people live in this place. Okay, go ahead. 35.
They stored it also with an armor and victuals. And when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there. And so they became a sore snare.
And they became a sore snare. Go on, keep reading.
For it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary and an evil adversary to Israel.
Go ahead.
Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it.
And defiled it. Go on.
Insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them. Whereupon the city was made an habitation of a stranger, and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her.
So the people, the inhabitants of Jerusalem, they had to get out of Dodge, and then they gave birth to children and that birth happened out of Jerusalem. So the folks are starting to forget Jerusalem, huh? Is that what's going on? In so much that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them. Of who? The Edomites, the Greeks. Whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers and became strange. The city became strange to the children of Judah, to those that were born in her, and her own children left her. Go on, 39.
39. Her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning.
Her feast. So we're talking about the weekly Sabbath. We're talking about the Passover. We're talking about the Feast of Unleavened Bread. We're talking about Pentecost. We're talking about Feast of Tabernacles. We're talking about the New Moon feast. Go on.
Her Sabbath into reproach, her honor into contempt.
And all those Sabbaths that I just made reference to, they constitute culture. They constitute customs. Go on.
40. As had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning.
And her excellency was turned into mourning. Go on.
Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people.
So Antiochus says to all the inhabitants, everyone of the land, listen, 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 every last one of you, we need to be one people. United States is a great nation, and we need to do things that unite us and not divide us. All this racial rhetoric only divides us. All this Republican and Democratic only divides us. We are a great nation, and we need to be united. Read on.
42. And everyone should leave his law. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king.
So everyone should leave their laws. That's how we're going to be united. You leave your law, your customs, you leave all that paints a picture of who you are, and you adapt ours. You assimilate into us. Go on.
43. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion.
Many Israelites, they gave way to that thing. They said, no, hey, instead of them slaughtering us, killing us left and right, let's go ahead and agree to what they're talking about. Read.
And sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath.
And they sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. So in that day, then that means that they were worshiping Zeus, Mars, Diana. But today, that same thing yesterday, today is Christmas, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Memorial Day, Labor Day, all the customs of the United States. Go on.
44. For the king had sent letters by messenger unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land.
That they should follow the strange laws of the land. Go ahead.
And forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings into the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbath and festival days.
Festival days. They should profane the Sabbaths and festival days. So let go of the days you keep. Let that go. Don't etch that out on your calendar to keep. But keep our calendar holidays. Go ahead.
46. And pollute the sanctuary and holy people. Set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts.
Now, and so, which the children of Israel never did sacrifice swine, pig. But now they're saying, hey, set up your temples with an image of a white Jesus. Set up your temples. It's the facial expression you gave.
I'm thinking about, it just really seems weird to me now that we're into the knowledge of the truth. But I'm trying to picture a fat pig or hog being sacrificed, being slaughtered for the Most High God. When he says he detests and it's an abomination. So he got, he had to deal with Cain because Cain would sacrifice his best. And now if a pig, a hog, swine's flesh is something that he despises, what you think gonna happen to the people that do that? I'm just wondering.
So here comes Antiochus. Here comes this Greek. Here comes this white man who says, let us be one people. And in being one people, the law that will bind us is our law. You let go of your law. The thing that will bind us is our religion. You let go of your religion. You let go of your customs. Go ahead and set up sanctuaries, but in the sanctuaries that you set up, we need you to set up, Cupid and Diana and Jupiter. Set those things up. And when you sacrifice swine's flesh on the grill. Now that was yesterday. Today, it's put a white Jesus as the backdrop. Put a cross, a crucifix as the backdrop. And have barbecues with pork steak and pork chops and pork ribs and smother it in sweet molasses barbecue sauce. So that's the parallel. So we see yesterday, nothing's changed. It's the same today. Okay, so let's continue on.
48. They that should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation.
Because the children of Israel had a custom, had a law, according to Leviticus chapter 15, I believe. It was either 13 or 15, I believe. On the 8th day, that the male child was to be circumcised. But because we're going to be one nation, do not circumcise your boys. Because circumcision is only applicable to the boy, not to the female.
Right.
Go on.
49. To the end, they might forget the law.
To the end, they what?
They might forget the law.
To the end, they what?
They might forget the law.
They might forget the law. They might forget the law. Okay, go on.
And change all the ordinances.
And change all the ordinances. Go on.
And whosoever would not do according to the commandments of the king, he said, he should die.
And if you refuse to forget the law, well, we're going to put you to death. If you refuse to forget your law and adapt to our law, we're going to put you to death. Go on.
51. In the selfsame manner wrote he to his whole kingdom and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the city of Judah to sacrifice, city by city.
City by city. Go ahead.
Then they of the people were gathered unto them to whip everyone that forsook the law. And so they committed evil in the land.
So there was a great host of people who consented. Great host of people who said, okay, we're gonna preserve our life and follow this nation. Antiochus, the Greeks, this white man. Go on.
53. And drove the Israelites into secret places, even wheresoever they could flee for secure.
For succor, right?
Cool.
For help, for provisions. Okay. So those who said, we're not going to forget our God. They had to run into hiding places. They had to run into the wilderness. They had to run and find caves where they could hide out. They had to cross the Ohio River to get away from the German shepherds. right? Hoping that when they crossed the Ohio River, they wouldn't get caught up by Border Patrol and be placed in cages, as is right now down at the border. Okay? So now, this is the historical record of what happened in the time period of the Maccabees. Now, the story of the Maccabees takes place from 336 BC up through 146-ish BC. So basically, the book of Maccabees are the events we read about before we start reading the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, before we start reading about Jesus Christ. There's a movie Netflix has out, brand new movie. It was released, I believe, last week. It's called They Cloned Tyrone. Had you heard about it?
Yeah, vaguely. I heard about something about Tyrone. Because the brothers, our other brothers in Christ in Israelites, they were talking about it.
Okay.
And I heard them because they were maybe I'm thinking of a different thing, but they were at a concert with Erykah Badu, where Erykah Badu was outside the venue.
Okay.
And they were talking about Tyrone, but I just thought they were saying it because
Of her song.
yeah.
Okay. This movie, I got a clip for us to watch. All right. And so Tyrone, here's Tyrone right here. And he's cloned. Jamie Foxx is in the movie. He's cloned. Okay. And all these folks, all the black folks, these folks, they're clones. Okay. And so let's pay attention. Let's watch. This is this particular scene. Keith Sutherland is about to give a monologue. Okay. Pay attention to what Keith Sutherland's character has to say.
Okay, drug dealer walking into a bar. You need a job. Everybody got a bar. Think real hard at. You could really hit it off. See, I'm just the guy back there. You should think of me more like mall security. Because we're really, really big.
Mall security? Don't torture people down here.
Not torturing anything. For research, experiment, great science. For the greater good, I might add. Oh, man.
7 lives in America.
America was an experiment. Fake idea cooked up by the aristocratic guy who loved living in mansions built by a slave. When they checked out, they left us with Bill. A country constantly at war with itself. No common ground, no dialogue, no peace. We're all on the same page, not ripping each other's heads off. And all of this, as a chance to work. That's what he's trying. Keeping the United States united. Calling the pimps, everybody got a part to play. In order to rescue.
By cloning pimps and drug dealers, we want to keep the United States together by cloning pimps and drug dealers.
You want to work down here, this place has to have certain flavors, quality of life. You should have said what? Let's keep it that way. Oh, there's way all of us. There'd be free Starbucks here by Tuesday. There goes our. We use you, we play.
If we remove you, we're gonna glorify, beautify the community and put Starbucks in there and shopping malls and everything nice. We need you guys to be here because you play a certain role to the overall quality of life for the American culture.
So, I'm just there. That's just fair and good people here every day. The only reason I did to keep the place fucked up. Don't go glass half empty. Your goddamn face. Hard enough to turn your cap. So. What? That's it. No, man. That's good. The way I see it, you only got two options. Option one. Chester here, kill you. Option two. You now. Go back to your regular life. Do what you do best. Put it the other way. I gotta say, option two sounds pretty fantastic. What do you think, Justin? Real Sophie choice vote. So, what's it gonna be? Three, look at black. Look at black.
So now he has a code word, unbeknownst to Tyrone. Here's Tyrone. Unbeknownst to Tyrone, Keith Sutherland's character has a code word to keep the Negro in check. So you see, Tyrone pulls a firearm on Keith Sutherland character. When he does, he yells out, Olympia Black, causes Tyrone to freeze in his tracks. Right? So he's frozen his tracks.
I say those words, but I tell you. And I know it's unpleasant, there's no control, it was not a way. The economy for granted. I don't really need you to.
So we don't take autonomy for granted. See, you think you have freedom to do this and do that. We have code words so that if it's getting too out of hand, we can freeze it.
We own that gold chain around your neck, that's sweet fine grill, that 45 million.
Oh, but the woman, she's free to move about. The code word don't work on her, right? But listen to what he says to the woman.
Okay. Well, my friend Chester, want to take the sweet Charles, I'll have fun. Get the space.
He said, the woman, you come a dime a dozen. You come a dime a dozen. We don't care two squats about you, girl.
It's a regular roll of. I seem like it can't prove, but. Then you make the right decision. So let's get out of here. Gotta shoot them.
Right? So, interesting monologue. Interesting monologue. We own you. The gun in your hand, we gave you that. The gold chain around your neck, we gave you that. The gold in your mouth, we gave you that. And at any time, we need to say the code word, Olympia Black, to snap you back into reality. We have the power to do so. Right? So this is what he's saying. Okay. Death by assimilation is today's class. Death by assimilation. All right, then let's take a look at this book. Now, the name of this book is called Race and Ethnic Relations. Let me go to the title page. So here's the title of this book. It's called Race and Ethnic Relations, all right? Written by Martin and Marger. And it's not too old of a book. As you see, the copyright on the book is 2012, all right? And the first three chapters, there's a lot of definition, defining what, let me get to the page so I can get my, so the first two chapters, they want to define what race is. They want to define what ethnicity is. They go on to define what racism is, what discrimination is, what prejudice is. Prejudice being the attitude one has towards another group. And discrimination being the actions taken towards another group, okay? And so in chapter 4, we get into assimilation and pluralism. The chief question we pursue in this chapter is, what is the nature of relations among diverse groups in a multi-ethnic society? In the first couple of chapters, he lets us know we are discussing America and how America has multiple ethnic groups, multiple racial groups in America. And then he makes some comparisons to other nations throughout the chapter. Specifically, when various ethnic groups meet, what is the outcome of that contact? We have already seen that the emergence of a system of ethnic stratification with its attendant prejudice and discrimination is most common. But other dimensions and processes of group relations create a variety of inter-ethnic patterns, okay? So we want to discuss this variety of patterns. Judging from frequent news accounts of violence and general hostilities in multi-ethnic societies, it would seem that ethnic relations are, as a rule, conflictual. Indeed, almost all theorists have viewed conflict as a fundamental, if not permanent, feature of relations between ethnic groups. Donald Young's observation from 8 decades ago seems no less accurate today. Group antagonisms seem to be inevitable when two peoples in contact with each other may be distinguished by differentiating characteristics, either inborn or cultural, and or actual or potential competitors. So when we have multiple groups, 2 or more groups, and they don't share the same custom values, language, religion, food, clothing, music, child rearing, education, entertainment, when they don't share the same values, and when there is when there is competition for food, competition for housing, competition for reproduction, when there's competition, when these things exist, he says, there is bound to be some conflict among these groups. Though they may not always take overt or extreme form. These conflicts, when they come about, may not be able to see the workings of these conflicts so easy. It may not be so easy, overt. It may not be so easy to see what's going on. Power and conflict are the primary underlying facets of systems of ethnic inequality. Listen to what he says. Power and conflict are the primary underlying facets of systems of ethnic inequality. Power, politics, policies. Who gets the job and who don't get the job? Because power, who gets the job, who don't get the job, dictates what kind of lifestyle can I have? What kind of earnings can I make? If I make meager earnings, that's gonna have an effect on the kind of woman I can attract. Because if I'm making meager wages, the likelihood is I'm going to attract a woman that is going to be okay with my extreme meager wages. Right? He goes on. The dominant group may mobilize its power through force. And then what Antiochus did? Mobilized his power through force, killed, he massacred countless people. Ideology. And then what he did? He said, no, you can erect temples and so forth, but put swine on the altar when you're smoking, or both, to ensure its dominance. And minority groups will respond with counterforce, accommodation, or submission. So the minority group will either fight back, or they will try to accommodate the circumstances, the situation, or they will all out become submissive to the forces at play. Right? He says, although ethnic relations are, by definition, relations of conflict, certain qualifications to this maxim must be kept in mind. First, ethnic conflict is not maintained at a constant rate, does not take the same form, and is not based on the same factors from one society to another, or even within the same society. It is obviously more intense and sustained in some cases than in others. Ethnic conflict can be reduced, and some societies, though rare, may even achieve a system whereby groups live side by side for long periods in a generally harmonious state. He said, but this right here, this thing happening where you will live side by side, don't get it twisted in thinking that it's something that is sustainable. Okay, let's go on. Let's carry on. He says, it should be understood that conflict is not characteristic only of multi-ethnic societies, nor is ethnic conflict the only or even chief form in all societies. Okay, so he's saying that there might be even fighting among, within the Black community, there can be fighting. Within the white.
Light skin, dark skin,
Correct.
male, female, young, old.
Correct. Correct. Okay. Finally, no matter how disordinate or peaceful they may be, intergroup relations in multi-ethnic societies do not remain fixed. Internal migrations, immigration from other societies, political events, and varying economic conditions continually force revisions in public policies and create the social conditions that lead to change. At particular times, societies may move in the direction of either more harmonious relations among groups or greater separation and more intense conflict. Okay? Then he goes on he describes conflict and things being in order, and the theorists who speak on these things. Okay, and we want to go to right here, assimilation. Okay, assimilation. Most simply, assimilation means increasing similarity or likeness. Let me read that again. Assimilation means increasing similarity or likeness. As Yinger defines it, assimilation is a process of boundary reduction that can occur when members of two or more societies or of smaller cultural groups meet. Similarly, Harold Aberson defines it as the processes that lead to great homogeneity in society. So between the cultural groups, there becomes a oneness. Between the cultural groups, there becomes a oneness. Each of these definitions stresses that assimilation is best seen as a path or trajectory on which ethnic groups may move. It is a process, not a fixed condition or state of relations. Okay. Continuing. The end point of this homogenizing process is, for an ethnic group, the disappearance of any cultural or racial distinction setting it off from other groups. Or for the society as a whole, it is the biological, cultural, social, and psychological fusion of distinct groups to create a new ethnically undifferentiated society. Following this idea to its logical endpoint, with complete assimilation, there are no longer distinct ethnic groups. So because the two groups will meld together, the inbreeding is going to happen. So there's going to be a change in biology among the two groups. There's going to be a change in cultural views, cultural norms, social views, social norms, psychological views, psychological norms. A fusion's going to happen, and you'll get a new creature. Okay? Rather, there's a homogeneous society in which ethnicity is not a basis of social differentiation and plays no role in the distribution of wealth, power, and prestige. This does not mean, of course, that other forms of social differentiation and stratification no longer operate. In essence, a society in which all groups have perfectly assimilated is no longer a multi-ethnic society. They've become one society, and so now the problem will be issues within that one ethnic group. So in other words, instead of having a black-white society, you have a mulatto society. You have a mixed race society. So it's no longer about blacks and whites, it's other issues. So you have the mixed child even today saying, well, what about me? My mama white. So where do I fit in this? What about me? My daddy white. So where do I fit in this? You have this, the mixed child begins to look at both of its places of origin. Thinking I stem from black people, I stem from white people. I can't go all the way in one or the other. This complete form of assimilation, however, is rarely achieved. This complete form of assimilation is rarely achieved. So if we stay here in America, we've been here since 1600s. And so far, it has not taken over to the extent that the vast majority of American population is mixed race. Instead, assimilation takes different forms and is evident in different degrees. In other words, it is a variable that can change from the smallest beginnings of interaction and cultural exchange to the thorough fusion of the groups. Therefore, in examining the assimilation of ethnic groups, the question that must concern us is not simply are groups becoming more alike, but to what extent and in what ways are they becoming more alike? So when we think about that question even today, how are blacks and whites becoming more alike in America? When we consider the behaviors in 2023, the behaviors of the social groups, how are they becoming more and more alike? Instead of thinking how is there such a divide, how are they becoming more and more alike? Is the question this author is pinging us to think on. Okay? So now write this down. Dimensions of assimilation. Dimensions of assimilation. Okay? Assimilation can be seen in 4 distinct, though related, dimensions. And they are. So what are the 4 dimensions of assimilation? Cultural, structural, biological, and psychological. Cultural, structural, biological, and psychological. Okay? Let's take a look at cultural assimilation. The cultural dimension of assimilation involves the adoption by one ethnic group of another's cultural traits, language, religion, diet, and so on. Let go of your language, let go of your religion, let go of your diet, etc., and adopt ours. Okay? This process is sometimes referred to as acculturation. Almost always weaker, that is, minority groups, take on the cultural traits of the dominant group, though there is ordinarily some exchange in the opposite direction as well. This uneven exchange occurs not only because of the dominant group's superior power, but also because of the social advantages for the subordinates in adapting to the dominant group's ways. Okay? So in America, we lost our language. In America, you come here right now, 2023, you cross that border, don't you speak Spanish?
Yep, there you man.
Right? I was watching, I think it was in Florida, a video this past week. A man had a shop, said that if you come, we speak English here, and would not serve anyone that spoke another language. Wouldn't wait on. Okay. He says, the end point of the process of cultural assimilation implies a situation in which the previously distinct ethnic groups are no longer distinguishable on the basis of their behavior and values. They're no longer distinguishable on the basis of their behavior and values. Look at us. What cultural values do we have, do we hold from Africa? None. We're lost people. We don't know our name. We don't know our name. We don't know our values, our language. Ginger has noted that when groups are not highly antagonistic or culturally very desperate, acculturation can be additive rather than substitutive. That is, one group may augment its native culture with select elements of the others rather than substituting entirely. If the most basic cultural components like language and religion, listen again, if the most basic cultural components like language and religion are not exchanged, however, the assimilation process can proceed only to a minimum point. When we think about the Willie Lynch letter, they said they took the biggest black man and they broke him. They tarred him, tied him between two horses so that he would snap in half. That
I think they violated him as well.
the book didn't say that. Okay, the book doesn't say that. Now, if you're thinking about something else that you might know from another situation, but the book doesn't say that.
I'm thinking about they call it buck busting.
Okay, the book doesn't. The book, the Willie Lynch letter doesn't go into that. Okay, not the manhood, not homosexuality happening. Yeah, I figured that's what I'm trying to say. It doesn't do that. Yet, when we think about that book, they took the toughest black male and killed him. They took the most intellectual male and killed him. So all of the top-notch folks, they would do something to them in the face of everyone so that everyone else would fear this white man. America's Black Holocaust Museum. 3 of the world's most influential empires, Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. Now we came from all over Africa, the transatlantic slave trade, okay? And let's read some of this. It says, scholar, real. While knights rode around medieval Europe, the 3 great empires of West Africa prospered through unimaginable wealth. Ghana, Mali, and Songhai controlled more gold and conducted more global trade than any European power at this time in history. Okay? From 300 to 1235, this is AD time period. Ghana, traditionally known as Ouagadougou, the Empire of Ghana was the first of the great Western African empires, situated further north than the modern-day Republic of Ghana. This was the smallest but longest surviving of these 3 historical domains, located between 2 major rivers, the Niger and the Senegal, and bordered by the Sahara. To the east, Ghana became the center of trade between the Arabs and Berbers in the northern regions and other African societies to the south. Bringing down salt from northern Africa, the Arabs and Berbers traded in Ghana for gold and ivory. Okay. Now, Berbers, this is a combination of Negroes and Arabs individuals. Okay. There's a mixture. The Berbers. There was a mixing of the blood, if you will. Okay. Continuing on. Ghana's wealth grew through a double taxation system placed on their most valuable commodity, gold. People were taxed when bringing gold and again when taking it out of the empire. Ghana also profited from the exportation of gold. Gold dust was the main currency of the time. Salt, however, is essential for human survival and rare the furthest south ones travel. So the further you travel south, the least likely you could find salt. As the desire and need for further trade grew, the nomadic Berbers created the Western Trans-Saharan Caravan Road. Thanks to this intricate highway system, Mediterranean traders could travel south to African strongholds like Ghana to exchange their salt for ivory and gold. Okay, so here we see these things. These are the things we would have witnessed in that day and time. All right. Let's go on. Mali from 1230 to 1460. Out of the ashes of Ghana came the next great civilization and its time, and the richest. Let me back up. This just now around 650 AD, around 650 AD. And the reason I'm thinking about this, I'm looking at the time period, and I'm also thinking about this trans-Saharan caravan road. So around 650 and really taking off around 720, we get the trans-Saharan slave trade. So the Arabs are now enslaving blacks. Okay. But let's get to Mali, 1230 to 1460. Out of the ashes of Ghana came the next great civilization of its time and the richest kingdom ever to exist in world history, the Mali Empire. The roots of Mali start within ancient Ghana and the Malink inhabitants of Kangaba, who served as middlemen trading gold to foreigners. Sundiata Keita rose up from the small kingdom of Kangaba, won the people's support, conquered the last stronghold of ancient Ghana, and began the reign of the Mali Empire. His successors expanded the empire to envelop the trading towns of Timbuktu and Goa, and northern regions such as Takhaza, containing the highly valuable salt deposits. Mali swallowed up the wealth of Ghana and expanded on their practices with great success. Okay, so transition of power. Okay, transition of power, and now all these folks. Now these are who are primarily inhabiting these places. Ghana. Let me go back up here. Who are the folks who are inhabiting all of this? Are the Israelites who had fled Jerusalem in 70 AD. The folks who are inhabiting this are Israelites who had fled Israel in 70 AD. What time period is this? Again, we've shown 300 AD to 1235 AD. 70 AD, the children of Israel fled Israel. Israel is here. If you look at, pull this up. If you look here where I have the cursor, where the pointing finger is, they came out of Jerusalem, out of Israel, and they came and crossed and settled throughout Africa. And this region becomes most dominating region of Africa. Okay. So there's Mali. Let's read about Mansa and Musa Mansa. In 1312, Musa the first, or Mansa, Musa took the throne of Mali. He had an army of over 100,000, including a cavalry of more than 10,000 men. This army was a formidable fighting force which enabled Mansa Musa to double the size of his kingdom. He is remembered most notably as the richest man who ever lived. Okay, so now let's go on to the next. Here's a picture of him, and this is when cartography is really big. Cartography is map making, and here he is with the scepter in his hand. Okay, here's a map showing the Songhai Empire. Okay. And it's going to go from 1460 to 1600. Okay. Now remember, 1492, Christopher Columbus, a lot of things happen in 1492. 1492 is a timestamp where a lot of change, global change, begins to happen. Here we go. While Mali quickly fell apart due to rampant disunity, a new king reigned. Soni Ali ruled Songhai from 1464 to 1492. The Songhai kingdom was a small contemporary state of Ghana, but later rose to defeat its Malian conquerors. The Songhai controlled the trade on the Niger River at the time of the Mali Empire. Through endless campaigns for expansion, Songhai became the largest of the three great empires of Western Africa and larger than all of the continental Europe. The Songhai Empire under Ali had the only naval fleet in West Africa. Ali was a military tyrant, also referred to as Sonny the Merciless, intolerant of any resistance to his rule. He is known for having starved the citizens of renowned trading town of Janneh into submission. These brutal tactics explain how the empire grew so large in such a short amount of time, also suggesting why the empire would last just as briefly. Sani Ali is also known, however, for his wise economic decisions, reviving the ancient trade routes of emperors past. Under his reign, vast commercial cities like Janneh, Goa, and Timbuktu became great centers of learning and scholarship. Okay. So here are three great African cultures in their time periods. 1600s, well, actually 1492, slavery is happening. Before slavery comes to the mainland of the United States, get back down here. Before, let me highlight this year right here. Before slavery is coming to the mainland of the United States, slavery is happening in the islands, the Canary Islands, St. Thomas Island, and then slaves are being brought across the Atlantic Ocean. Slavery is taking place even in the Caribbean islands. Slavery is going to first, as far as mainland goes, slavery is going to first happen in the mainlands of South America. Okay, but 1492 is a pivotal timeline for historical events with all that we discuss, with modern things we discuss. All right. He said in his book, it is if the most basic cultural components like language and religion. All right. So let's watch this. Now this video is called Languages of Africa.
Africa speaks over 2,000 languages, making the continent home to a quarter of all languages on Earth.
It says Africa speaks over more than 2,000 languages.
Africa speaks over 2,000 languages, making the continent home to a quarter of all languages on Earth. South Africa alone has dozens of languages, that more than 100. And in Nigeria, people speak over 500 languages. How can we hope to understand such a multilingual continent? Spend the next minutes with me and let's try.
All right, so let's carry on.
And how do we start? With families, language families that since ancient times have lived, grown, and branched in Africa. Follow the Atlantic south of the Sahara, along the Gulf of Guinea, through to the basin of the Congo River, east to Kenya, and all the way down to South Africa.
Now, all of that red colored of Africa are Israelites. All of this red color are Israelites.
Here is a large and diverse group of Niger-Congo languages.
Niger-Congo languages. All of this red, pink, whatever it looks like to you, these are Israelite people.
Perhaps a fifth of all the world's.
And again, I stated earlier already today that 70 AD, the children of Israel fled Israel into Africa.
Languages belong to just this one family, including Wolof and Tree, and two of Nigeria's most spoken.
And these folks now, most of these folks right here are folks who came into the Americas as slaves. We have descended from these folks. Wolof, Mandinka, Kru, Twi, Yoruba, Igbo. We are the descendants of these ancient people. Not ancient to the end that they are dead, but ancient, this is where we descend from.
Languages, Yoruba and Igbo, but Hausa, Korea's most spoken language, Wolof and Tree, and two of Nigeria's most spoken languages, Yoruba and Igbo, but Hausa, you're from another family. We'll get to you. Off on their own in Sudan, these pockets get lumped together as Kordofanian, but watch out how you classify them. Come back to them too. Benue Congo is a vast subgroup that's spread far south and east of the Benue River into the expansive Bantu languages.
And there is anthropology studies that articulate that the Bantu people are descendants of ancient Israelites.
The Benue River into the expansive Bantu languages. This family.
Okay. And now let's listen. Okay. So now here's a young man. This is current. And we're going to listen to him speak in his native tongue. And his native tongue is Fanti. It's a language of Ghana.
Yankofo, Adolfo, Miano, Imawina, Aquaba, in the Wissy. In the Mendele make us such a but make a more some crack, the me and time and a material. Or friend of other subject man. Let me feed it and other fancy thing, yet papa, maybe we shall go from their call. Maybe figure out a shape. Let me fancy me. Omo America, or Croker say our friend in New Orleans. Now, so we can send a Ghana bay and feed our tree. Nti ɔhɔ na mesua Asante kasa.
Okay, so we lost our native tongue, which made it easy for us to assimilate, for us to accept the education that they forced on us. So they no longer had to force an education on us. We lost our language. We simply started to believe whatever they fed us. They gave us a bowl of sugar and we said, tastes good. And we continued to live on that bowl of sugar, dying of all kind of ailments, obesity and so forth. Okay. Let's listen to one more language speaker. Now, this sister right here, she's speaking in Wolof.
Puede que vos también tenéis una publicidad. De que yo para moneda de que yo también tenéis, yo puedo ser de moneda ahí, ¿no? So you know we go oye island si Nasaran, lady ni mani mi Taiwan di down the Nasaran, inakamnapi, yeah.
Right? So now you and I, we have no idea what this sister is saying. We've lost it. Right? But the language still exists. The language still exists. We lost it. Okay. What did he say in this book? He said, if the most basic cultural components like language and religion are not exchanged, however, the assimilation process can proceed only to a minimum point. So in order for it to go all the way, we have to eliminate the language, we have to eliminate the religion. Okay, let's look at some other cultural things, because up here, what did he say at the top of this? He says the cultural dimension of assimilation involves the adoption by one ethnic group of another's cultural traits, language, religion, diet. All right, so let's take a look. What did Africans eat? What did ancient Africans eat? So here it reads, what's going on now? My apologies. Okay, so African food, history, cooking and eating in early Africa. Before people started farming, African hunters and gatherers ate mainly fruit, especially figs, with some meat and fish and seafood and eggs. Along the coast, Africans also fished and gathered shellfish. Okay. They harvested wild grain and nuts to eat and gathered honey. They got a lot of their fat from nuts, ground nuts, palm oil. By 7000 BC, check this out, people in North Africa also began herding local cattle. People milked the cows and made yogurt and cheese. Around 6000 BC, as the climate changed, the Sahara Desert gradually took over the grassland. It got hotter and to get food, and some African people began to farm, some for their food. By 4000 BC, people in Ethiopia and Eritrea had domesticated a grain called teff. And in Sudan, people had domesticated millet and sorghum. Millet is a lot like barley and could also be made into bread or mush, like a thick oatmeal. People in West Africa also gradually domesticated local millet and other grasses. Now, there's this one that I wanted to show. This one thing right here. So grain, all this is grain and fruit and this and that. Okay, we get that chickpeas. There's one thing I want to show. There is one thing I want to show right here. Sometime around 1500 BC, during the Egyptian New Kingdom, people in Egypt started to eat chicken. Around the same time, rich people stopped eating pork, which became taboo, forbidden for them. Get for me Leviticus chapter 11, verse 7. We'll read verse 4 through 7. Leviticus chapter 11, verse 4 through 7. Now, 7 through 11, verse 7 through 11. Yeah. Apologize. There we go.
This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 11 and verse 7. And the swine, though he divide the hoof and be cloven-footed, yet he cheweth not the cud. He is unclean to you. Of their flesh shall ye not eat, and their carcass shall ye not touch. They are unclean to you. These shall.
No, that's it. Okay. So I'm going to show one more concerning diet. And now we're looking at enslaved African Americans, right? Originally, we were looking at Africans, okay? And they yams, candy yams, all right? Now, African Americans, enslaved, okay? Cuisines of enslaved Africans, food that traveled along with the slave ships. There were many African grown crops that traveled along the slave ship with slaves. Most often foods such as okra, rice, and kidney and lima beans accompanied them. The food was to ensure that the slaves were able to eat while traveling to their new way of life. There were also many other crops that traveled as well, such as watermelon, yams, guinea melon, millet, and sesame. Many of these crops today can still be found in many kitchens across America. The crops soon became not only eaten by Africans, but by white Africans as well. Remember?
White Americans as well.
Yes, white Americans as well. Thank you. Remember in the book, it said that there would be some exchange, but the dominant group was still going to impose their ways more than not. Okay. George Washington wrote, nope, here we go. First brought to the New World during the transatlantic slave trade, black-eyed peas were a food used only for the slaves. They were first discovered in 1675 and quickly moved into other around the world before making its way into Florida, North Carolina, and then Virginia by 1775. I can, yeah, it's the page. It's the page. My apologies. Where am I at? George Washington wrote a letter in 1791 explaining that food was rarely grown in Virginia. He later purchased 40 bushels of seeds for planting on his plantation. The peas went on to become one of the most popular food crops eaten in southern parts of the United States. They were later called cornfield peas by George Washington because of the early custom of planting them between the rows of field corn. Okay. Coffee, collar cakes, cow peas, black-eyed peas, kush, which is a sweet fried cornmeal cake, fufu, a delicious cake, which was made from a mixture of cornmeal and flour and poured into hot boiling water. The Africans then made hot cakes. People who worked in the fields referred to it as ash cakes. Grits, slaves took hominy, which is Indian corn, and made grits. Guinea corn is also known as sorghum or millet. Gunga cake is a gingerbread tasting cake, okay, originated in the Congos. Hops and Johns, West African dish of black-eyed peas and rice cooked together, okay. Jambalaya. Now, this jambalaya, which is called Bantu Tish Bolimbol in the African language, is a dish of tender cooked corn. Okay. Jol of rice, juba, maluvu, millet bread, cornbread, sesame, tania, watermelon. Watermelon spread from Sudan to Egypt during the second millennium. It is now a well-known fruit throughout the world. It was brought in the country during the slave trade. Okay. So this is the culture that we lost. Okay. That's cultural assimilation. Now, write this down. Structural assimilation. Structural assimilation. Okay. Whereas cultural assimilation refers to a blending of behaviors, values, and beliefs. Structural assimilation refers to an increasing degree of social interaction among different ethnic groups. Specifically, with structural assimilation, members of minority ethnic groups are dispersed throughout the society's various institutions and increasingly enter into social contracts with members of the dominant group. So we can no longer build as one, having a cultural center with banks, with businesses, but instead we come to one place to lay our head. We have a neighborhood, but we have to leave the neighborhood and to go into other cultural centers for employment, for anything dealing with power. Okay. Hold on. Bear with me. Bear with me. Okay. So now let's get back into it. All right. He goes on to say, structural assimilation may occur at two distinct levels of social interaction. The primary level, which is also known as informal, and the secondary level, which is known as formal. The primary relations are those occurring within relatively small and intimate groups. In particular, the family and friendship cliques. The primary are those small family intimate cliques, family friendship cliques. Yeah, that's my buddy Tom. Yeah, I got a black friend. Yeah, I have a black friend. Yeah, we go fishing all the time. Yeah, I'm married to a black woman, to a white woman. Yeah, I'm married to a white man, a black man. Okay. Relations among members of these groups are effective, and the group's purposes extend well beyond instrumental goals. There is most simply an emotional bond among group members, and relations are therefore close and long lasting. So personally, lights go out, I don't see color. Personally, lights go out, I don't see color. I feel warm arms holding me, warm legs holding on to me. That's what the primary group, that's their way of thinking. And what brings about structural assimilation. Structural assimilation. It's informal. Okay. Secondary relations, by contrast, are chiefly within large impersonal groups such as the school, the workplace, or the polity. Now we're talking about politics. Now we're talking about where you're going to get your education from. Let's do away with affirmative action. And doing away with affirmative action means the best qualified will be the ones that attend our schools. Education and housing. We know that the poor, that they receive the least amount of tax dollar. So because they receive the least amount of tax dollar, they're going to be the least educated. So when it comes time for them to graduate from high school, they won't have the credentials to get into the prestigious schools of higher learning. Okay. He says here, structural assimilation at the primary level implies interaction among members of different ethnic groups within personal networks, entrance into clubs, neighborhoods, friendship circles, and ultimately marriage. Okay. He goes on. At the secondary level, structural assimilation entails equality of access to power and privilege within the society's major institutions. So informal, we don't care who you marry and who you lay down with. Informal, you do not get a seat at the table. You do not get a seat at the table when it comes to power. Okay? Within the society's major institutions, the economy, government, education, and so on. This means that jobs, housing, schooling, and other key life chances are distributed without regard to people's ethnic affiliation. Essentially, structural assimilation at the secondary level involves, in its ultimate stage, the elimination of minority status. The elimination of the minority status. To measure the degree of secondary structural assimilation, we would look at the extent to which a minority ethnic group is approaching parity with the dominant group in the allocation of income and wealth, political power, and education. Right? So, was there more that I wanted to read on this? Just trying to see if there was more that I wanted to read on this. Okay, nope, good. All right, let's go on to this is from Pew Research Center, 2017. Trends and patterns in intermarriage. In 1967, when miscegenation laws were overturned in the United States, 3% of all newlyweds were married to someone of a different race or ethnicity. Only 3%. Very low. Since then, intermarriage rates have steadily climbed. By 1980, the share of intermarried newlyweds had about doubled to 7%. And by 2015, that number had risen to 17%. Okay, so it's steady climbing. Okay. All told, more than 670,000 newlyweds in 2015 had recently entered into a marriage with someone of a different race or ethnicity. By comparison, in 1980, the first year for which detailed data are available, about 230,000 newlyweds had done so. Okay. Let's go to one of the most dramatic patterns occurring among Black newlyweds. Black men are twice as likely as Black women to have a spouse of a different race or ethnicity. 24% Black male versus 12% Black female. This gender gap has been a long-standing one. In 1980, 8% of recently married Black men and 3% of their female counterparts were married to someone of a different race or ethnicity. Okay. Okay. Here's an article from September 29th, 2021. TV commercials that intentionally skew American demographics. What do you mean intentionally skew? Well, let's read what this person is saying. In viewing the list of companies and products below, do you discern any common denominator? ADT, Amazon, American Express, Armor All, AT&T, Axe, Ice Chill, Bear Ultra, Cadillac, Calvin Klein, Capital One, Carolina Kino, and on and on and on. Okay, McDonald's, Michelob, Miller Lite, Mountain Dew, Nestle's, on and on and on. T-Mobile, Tide, Wells Fargo, okay, Vroom.com, on and on and on. Give up? Every entity above features television commercials with a black male paired with a white female. Most couples appear to be married or part of a long-term relationship. In some cases, the pair appears to be dating. To be sure, the incident of mixed race couples in society has been on the increase since the 1970s. Currently, about 1 in 6 marriages are mixed race, 1 in 6. However, as Blacks represent less than 13% of the US population, and Black men represent roughly 6% of the population, half of the 13%, it is a statistical anomaly that so many TV commercials would have chosen to feature such a pairing: Black man, white woman, with white males out of the picture. Armor All, Progressive Insurance, Sonic, T-Mobile, and Toyota feature a variety of different TV commercials that pair a Black man with a white woman, and in many cases, with white children in the back seat. Samsung, Budweiser, Trojans, Grey Goose Vodka, etc. Relationships between Black men and white women. In other cases, only fleeting glimpse of such couples are offered, as with Google, JCPenney, Nissan, and Busch Garden commercials. Unlike anything you've ever seen in an Amazon TV commercial, a Black man is brushing his teeth as a white woman sticks her head out of the shower and says, "That's a low price," as 2 children, 1 Black and 1 white, are all in the bathroom with them at the same time. A lead features a white woman with a Black child on her shoulders. Zeluja shows a gleeful grandmother accompanied by her 2 mixed race grandchildren on a boat around the lake. LL Flooring features a couple lying on a hardwood floor. And the white woman says, "I love you, Steve." And then the Black man says, "I love you, Steve." It turns out the flooring salesman is named Steve. Unprecedented scenarios. Obviously, anyone can fall in love with anyone, and anyone can be in a relationship with anyone. What is going on in corporate and progressive America that requires over-accenting such couples? Hispanics and Asians are generally not part of this phenomenon. Now, when examining this Pew Research study, the least coupling, according to Pew Research, the least coupling was Black and whites. Hispanic and white are the dominant feature. Black and white is the least coupling feature. Okay. So, amazingly, whenever a Black man in a TV commercial is actually paired with a Black woman, the Black woman always has a lighter skin. If a Black man is featured with his apparent children, they always have much lighter skin, leading to the obvious conclusion that the mother is white. With a T-Mobile, a white woman wearing a wedding ring is resting her head in the lap of a Black man. I've been watching television for the past 60 years and have never seen such poses depicted in any TV commercial with a white husband and wife or a Black husband and wife. For some reason, however, today's corporate entities feel compelled to show us a Black husband and a white wife in scenarios unprecedented over the last several decades. Okay? It goes on. It goes on. Americans see more interracial relationship in advertising. Well, now here's a Caucasian. In the opinion article we just read, it was Black man with white woman. Now, right here at the opening of this article, it's a white man with a Black woman. Okay? And this article is March 2021. A happy interracial family hugging each other while wearing apparel from clothing retailer Old Navy. A smiling Black man giving his white girlfriend an engagement ring. This image right down here. This image right here. Let me get back to it. A smiling Black man giving his white girlfriend an engagement ring in a State Farm insurance ad. And a biracial couple and their kids on a road trip in a vehicle made by Hyundai. That's further down. Okay. These are among the increasing number of advertisements selling everything from cereal to prescription drugs that portray the American family in ways few companies and advertising agencies would have dared a generation ago. More than 50 years after the US Supreme Court struck down laws banning interracial marriage, a growing number of ads feature interracial couples with biracial children. Okay, so obviously this is going on and on and on and on, right? Yahoo News. Here's the title. No, President Biden. Interracial couples on TV doesn't make America any less racist. Well, why is this article starting off this way? What did President Joe Biden say?
And I'm going to say something's going to get me in trouble, which you couldn't go through a whole show without doing that. And that is that, think about it. You want to know where the American public is, look at the money being spent on advertising. Did you ever 5 years ago think every second or third ad out of 5 or 6 you turn on would be biracial couples? No, I'm not being facetious. The reason I'm so hopeful is this new generation They're not like us. They're thinking differently. They're more open. And we gotta take advantage of it. I want you to,
They're more open.
please, I'm gonna say something's gonna get,
They're more open, and we got to take advantage of it.
Hmm.
So even the president has recognized the flooding of manipulation, the selling of an ideology. Okay? So now, let's go back. Now, these articles and trends, that would tend to the, how does he call it? The primary level. Let's go back. The primary or informal, but the secondary, that's the more structured. So for the secondary, I did not prepare myself with articles, but when we think about the reality, give me a second. Bear with me.
Yeah, but going back to the commercial. Before you even brought that article up, I was thinking about how this influx of commercials with interracial couples, especially more overwhelming with Black men with white women, but now they're beginning to have more and more Black women with white men and these interracial children. So they're doing it to sell a product, but they're also selling a mess up, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
And why do I think that? Maybe they're trying to preserve something. I'm thinking. Does this lesson kind of go into that as well?
Mm-mm.
Oh,
Mm-mm. I just want to show. Wait a minute. Here we go. It's this. I was trying to get some quick. Here we go. Let me share this real quick. Now this is going to fall under the secondary. So mixed couples is a way of looking at the informal, the primary. Now we are seeing results or outcome of the secondary structural racism. Okay, and look what it says. White people own 80%, 86% of wealth and make up 60% of the population. Okay. Who owns wealth in the United States? According to data from Federal Reserve in 1990, the white household owned 90.7% in 1990 of that's almost 30 years ago, a little more than 30 years ago of household wealth in the United States, whereas Black households owned 3.8% in 1990. And Hispanics household owned 2.1. These numbers have changed a little over the past 30 years, with white households now owning 85.5% of the wealth in 2019, and Black households owning 4.2%. 4.2%. What is the math on that? So 4.2 minus 3.8, an increase of 0.4%. An increase of 0.4% from 1990 to 2019, because that's when this is significant. 2019. 0.4% is the increase in 30 years. Okay. So whereas we will not give you a seat at the table. I'm tired of fighting with my daughter and so on and so forth. You know, my wife is white. I'm white, and I have 3 children. 2 of my children have married other white people. My 3rd child has gone and married a Black man. We just disown them. That's all that is. That's what that is. So I still can give my inheritance to the children of my other 2 white children. Right? That's the thinking. But you will not sit at the table. That's the thinking. Okay?
No power for you.
No power for you. Most of the white wealth decline is due to other racial groups attaining a shared wealth. Okay. Right. So you see how low it is, though. I mean, here's the white. Here are the whites, 2019. And here are the Blacks, down here at the bottom. Hispanics or they're saying Hispanics are lower. Another way to look at this is the net worth or assets, such as stocks and real estate, minus liabilities, such as loans and mortgages left to pay. We go to payday loans where it's at 300%. Right? And I have heard someone say, this was a system. This was a system concerning the potential of her future children, that they can pay for their own education because she paid for her own education. Instead of having a mindset that says, you know, I need to have some fun, I need to have a savings for my future children. Okay. The average net worth per capita among white Americans is roughly $437,000 per person, whereas this value is $105,000 among Black people and $53,000 among Hispanic people. Wealth is generally held by older Americans. Okay, all right. All right. Is there anything else on this? The home is typically America's largest asset, but not for Black Americans. While the assets of white households are equally split between real estate, equity, and mutual fund shares, pensions, and other assets, the assets of other racial groups are less diversified. Almost 2/3 of Black wealth is composed of real estate and pensions, with 38% coming from pension asset alone. Similarly, 61% of Hispanic wealth and 56% of wealth from other races is composed of just these two assets. So you take out a 401k plan, you got stock options with your job, with your company, and all the while you have stock options with your company, you don't own your house because you live in an apartment. You're not buying a house. Okay. So, all right. That's enough of that. Let's go back to this article. So now write this down. So now we talked about, we've been talking about the 4 dimensions of assimilation. We talked about cultural assimilation. We talked about structural assimilation. And in this book with structural assimilation, he also says, where is that at? That it is, oh, here it is, right here. Right here. Let me read this real quick. Secondary structural assimilation has often been referred to as integration. Integration. And that's exactly what we have done. We have integrated. That's what we fought for during the time period of civil rights movement. Integration. When there was a time we owned the bus companies. Dr. Claude Anderson talks about how he and his family owned bus lines. Okay. Okay, so write this down. The third dimension of assimilation, psychological assimilation. Psychological assimilation. Okay. Our focus is primarily on how various groups interrelate. Our concern, therefore, is chiefly with the cultural and structural dimensions of assimilation. But there is an individual dimension of assimilation in which attention falls on particular members of an ethnic group rather than on the group as a whole. This is part of the social psychology of ethnic relations and concerns the extent to which individuals have been absorbed into the larger society and identify with it. They absorb into the larger society and they identify with that society. With psychological assimilation, members of an ethnic group undergo a change in self-identity to the extent that individuals feel themselves part of a larger society rather than an ethnic group. They are psychologically assimilated. As psychological assimilation progresses, people identify themselves less in ethnic terms, whereas first-generation immigrants and their children will define themselves as Italian American or Irish American. By the third generation, ethnicity for most is no longer a major component in response to the question, who am I? This level of assimilation consists not simply of becoming culturally like members of the mainstream society, but accepting that society as home and thoroughly identifying with it. Blacks don't say, don't call me, I don't want to be called African American. I don't want to be called Black American. Just call me American.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Floyd Mayweather. Just call me American. I don't associate with those people over there anymore. So the author of this book is saying that by the third generation, that becomes a phenomenon. Right? Psychological assimilation implies a change not only in self-identification, but also in identification by others. Although individual members of an ethnic group may see themselves as simply part of the larger society rather than as ethnics, outsiders may continue to identify them as members of their group. He's still a nigger. I don't care. He can call himself American all day long. He's still a nigger. That's what the author is saying right here. He says others will still view them belonging to the group they belong to. That's what he's saying, right? Continuing on. As Yinger notes, prejudice on the part of the dominant group may prevent the granting of full membership in a society to members of minority groups, even though the latter think of themselves only in terms of the larger society. But I'm like you. Why can't I sit at the table? No, you cannot sit at the table. But I'm like you. We eat the same food. We worship on the same day. We behave the same way. I come to your functions. I come to your party. And at the end of the day, you cannot sit at this table with me. This table is important. This table, you can never sit at. You can come to all that stuff where we drink and smoke and do this, that, and the third, but this table right here, this is holy ground right here. And you cannot come and be among the sanctuary, the power. Right? He says, this visibility is, of course, critical here. Those with salient marks of ethnic identity, skin color in particular, are unable to fully achieve outgroup recognition as non-ethnics. Because of the color of your skin, you will always be an outsider. Now, as your skin lightens up, maybe. But as long as you are dark
You light and got that big nose.
and got that big nose, so what do the people do? They go get a nose job. Vivica Fox. They go get plastic surgery. Sammy Sauce.
Oh man.
They put the cream on the skin to change their natural color.
He look like a bag of flour, man.
So that they can, can I sit at the table now? Please accept me, massa. Please accept me, massa. Right? Some individuals may find themselves unable to feel fully part of the larger society or the ethnic group. Park and Stonequest use the term marginal men to describe these people. Okay. All right. And let's see, let me read this. The social psychology of ethnic identity is a complex matter, the details of which go well beyond our present purposes. Suffice it to say that within any multi-ethnic society, individuals may vary widely in the extent to which they identify with an ethnic group or choose to disregard ethnicity as part of their self-identity. Much depends not only on visibility, but also on the political and social conditions that may affect the individual costs and values of an ethnic identity. For example, whites in American society are permitted much latitude in their choice of personal identity. The same is not the case for racial ethnic groups. You don't make enough money to change your circumstances to fit in with the dominant group. You don't make enough money to buy the cream to change your complexion. You don't make enough money for the operation to thin your nose out, to thin your lips out. Right? Okay. So now, let's watch this. Crazy, racist black girl thinks she's white. Dr. Phil.
Yeah, I saw that before.
I'm an African American person because it helps them stay in their place.
Her
Her would mangle or destroy her black dogs. She would cut their heads off, pull off their arms.
Now this is the girl's mother. This is the girl's mother. You have a 16-year-old child behaving like this, you're the problem. Where is the father? Where is the father? When she was 2 years old, you laughed at her. That's the problem. When she was 5 years old, you tolerated the behavior. That's the problem.
Or destroy her black dogs. She would cut their heads off, pull off their arms. She would pretend that they were the white dog slaves.
I know a lot of people take issue with my beliefs. Anyway.
Wait.
As I watched this, I was asking myself, how did they had to get her to put this on? They got to be paying them a lot of money for this. As I watched this, I'm like, they had to have done that. But it goes on and on and on.
My opinion.
Well, she definitely has a mouth.
My worst fear is that my daughter Treasure will put on a white sheet and join the Ku Klux Klan.
If my mom was afraid that I might join the Ku Klux Klan, the only thing that she needs to know is I may just do it if they offer me a hood.
She said she would do it. Is this it? I don't know, maybe this is it. Maybe she said she has them on speed dial.
Please.
Never. Seeing a black person is like going to the zoo. You only want to go there a few times, but
Honestly, I just want to start off by saying,
She said seeing a black person is like going to the zoo. You only want to go there a few times. Oh my God. Let's see this.
that's like what David Chappelle got his skit from. Her.
Okay, let's see.
Black power.
Let's go. Oh, this is where she said she had him on speed dial. I was.
Call KKK. Have you ever reached out to the KKK? No. Call KKK. They keep me like current on like updated events.
Black power.
Hi guys, welcome to the Million Out of Touch. Let's take a walk and have a look and. What exactly is your problem? How much time you got, buddy?
People try to tell me I'm African American, but that's not true. African Americans aren't loud, rude, obnoxious, and just altogether fat and ugly.
This is what this chick is saying. All together, fat and ugly. It goes on. It goes on and on and on.
That's sorry.
Okay, let's go to this one.
What do you have to say to this young woman?
It's not that she hates Black people, it's that she hates herself and she wants her own life.
I don't take hood rap serious at all. So I don't.
She's calling the doctor that came there a hood rat.
I don't take hood rap serious at all. So I'm not gonna even pay her any mind. If I've been white since the day I've been born, then I'm still white now, and I'm white every day with us.
To refer to this very fine, well-educated woman who halfway across the country to reach out to you, to refer to her as a hood rat.
I'm not lying.
Well, I didn't want to ask you.
I feel like it's becoming of me to tell the truth.
And so I would absolutely invite you to come and shadow me in Atlanta so that you could actually meet and understand what amazing Black women look like. So that you can learn your Black history.
No, I don't believe in going in a room full of, I would never do something like that.
I don't believe going in a room full of N-words. That's heavy. Psychological assimilation.
Her mom don't know what to do.
Her mom doesn't know what to do. Psychological assimilation.
Moms are the rulers of these monsters.
Yeah.
Her nail dry. Well, as you can see, her hair literally looks like it's a sponge. If you put your hand in her hair, you probably lose a finger. The smell is just like so overwhelming, like I just want to die. There's dogs right there, like there's actual dogs right there. Like someone really needs to clean up. Where did they come from? This is why they're called monkeys in the first place, because they don't know how to. They never live in this filth, and among all of these African Americans, and among all of these people who clearly have absolutely no.
This is what she says about her own people. This is how she feels about her own people. Psychological assimilation. Here is a mind that is destroyed. But it doesn't end there. It does not end there. Let's take a look at one more. Now, this is Phil Donahue.
I was gonna say that's look like from the 80s.
And this is 1994. Just as bad, just as bad.
But the men in her lives have been lighter than you.
Yeah. Maybe, obviously here, what we've got the beginnings of the sketch of a profile of a person who's not at all comfortable with your own blackness.
Look at the facial expression. Whoa.
Person who's not at all comfortable with your own blackness.
Not black. Well, what are you then? What the hell are you? Let her tell it. Let her tell it. Listen, this is what she says. I'm brown from the boogie down. I don't know which one is worse. I don't know which one is worse. But listen on, there's more to this tale.
Continued to happen because I see pictures of her daughters with white dolls. And an individual at work that's her friend gave her a black doll. She even remarked that she didn't know if her child would play with that black doll. And
You do, Mimi, you do win on white people first.
She said her daughter would not play with black dolls. So she just as worse. And what, 20-year difference between the two videos?
It's more than I've seen.
Right? A mind destroyed is what this is. Okay. All right. And then the fourth is biological assimilation. So write that down, biological assimilation. You know, there are 4 dimensions of assimilation. The first is cultural assimilation, structural assimilation, psychological assimilation, and biological assimilation. Biological assimilation or amalgamation represents the ultimate stage in the assimilation process. So this is when you've hooked up and now you are having children with members of another racial group, of another ethnic group. At this point, intermarriage has occurred to such an extent that there is a biological merging of formerly distinct groups. They are indistinguishable, not only culturally and structurally, but physically as well. Some degree of amalgamation is a common byproduct of group contact and interaction. But the biological fusion of diverse groups is an outcome of interethnic relations that can occur only over a very long period. As we saw with this, 1967, 1980, 2015, the numbers increasing. So between 1980 and 2015, how many years, how many different? So over the course of 35 years, it increased 10%. You give it another 35 years, it will do more than increase by 10%. This is me thinking. It will increase by 20 to 30% in the next 35 years. So come 2015, come 2050, this number right here will be 45%.
Yeah.
50% of the population will be mixed. Will be Black couples, white couples, Asian couples with Black people, and so there will be a mixing of races. Says that this is a long-range objective, and Brazil, as we'll be seeing in chapter 14, has also progressed in this direction. So in Brazil, that has already happened. So if we go to Brazil, we'll see white people who are Black. Their granddaddy was a Black man. Their great-granddaddy was a Black man on their father's side. So here is the great-great-granddaddy, Black man, mulatto, damn near white. And the only white blood, because all these are males. Every last one is a male. So the mixing is the white female that comes into play. Okay. All right. Go to Ecclesiastes. Chapter 3 and verse 4.
The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3 and verse 4. A time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance.
A time to weep with all that's going on, all that we just read about and examined. The title of this class is called Death by Assimilation. There's a time to weep, a time to laugh. Right now is not the time to laugh. This chick says that she is a Caucasian. She's saying so it is a time for weeping, a time for mourning is right now. A time for us to realize who we are, whose we are, and what's required of us. Go to John chapter 16, verse 20 through 22.
The book of John, chapter 16 and verse 20. Verily, verily, I say unto you, that ye shall weep and lament, but the world shall rejoice.
But the world is rejoicing, right? Right now, we cry at our demise. And as we are crying at our demise, the world is rejoicing. Here they're putting out commercials that prop up a white man with a Black woman, a Black man with a white woman. I'm watching this series on Netflix called Suits about these lawyers.
Yeah.
And all throughout, one of the white boys is supposed to be the hot shot, the pretty boy, right? And there are constant moments from one episode to the next where white women, Black women, they call him attractive. But they don't do the same with the Black men. They do not do the same with the Black men. The Black men are not attractive. They're not the hunks. They're not the sex symbol. Go ahead, read.
Verily, verily, I say unto you, that ye shall weep and lament, but the world shall rejoice. And ye shall be sorrowful, but your sorrow shall be turned into joy.
But your sorrow shall be turned into joy. So all of our mourning and weeping, let us channel the energy into these scriptures and get on board with what these scriptures instruct us to do and how to be and how to live and how to unite. That our mourning, that our sorrow turns into joy. Go ahead.
21. A woman, when she is in travail, hath sorrow, because her hour is come. But as soon as she is delivered of the child, she remembers no more the anguish.
So once this is all over with, this that we are living through, this oppression that we are living through, then we will no longer remember the anguish of what the devastating blow we have been dealt. Read.
For joy that a man is born into the world, and ye now therefore have sorrow, but I will see you again, and your heart shall rejoice, and your joy no man taketh from you.
So Christ is saying, when y'all get on board with the plan that I have for you, you're gonna rejoice. You're gonna be glad. You're gonna be happy. Okay. Go to 2 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 10.
The book of 2 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 10. For godly sorrow worketh repentance to salvation.
But the sorrow that we have to be in, that we should be in, if we are experiencing sorrow, it needs to be godly sorrow. We need to understand, how did I piss God off? And in identifying and recognizing how we angered the Most High, we repent and we work to please the Most High. Read.
For godly sorrow worketh repentance to salvation, not to be repented of.
Not to be repented of. If we're pleasing the Most High, there's nothing to repent of. Read.
But the sorrow of the world worketh death.
But the sorrow of the world worketh death. That woman, that young girl, she is sorry to have to live among her own people. And because of the kind of sorrow that she embodies, it's going to be her ruin. It is going to be her ruin. Life is going to take her further down the rabbit hole before she comes out. Go to Psalms 126, verse 5 and 6.
The book of Psalms, chapter 126 and verse 5. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. He that goeth forth and weepeth, bearing precious seed, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaf with him.
So this right here, this verse 6, this part is heavy. This part is heavy. He that goeth forth and weeping, bearing precious seed. We go out on the street corner to preach to the people. When we go out, we are in tears. Yeah, we have a smile on our face, and we happy go lucky about the day, and to make the best of the day. But when we see the state of our people, we are in tears. But regardless of the tears, we go out to do the necessary work, to plant the seed. So what is the Bible telling us? Shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with him. His bundle of wheat, his bundle of legume, his bundle of crops, his bundle of figs, his fruit. Okay? When the harvest is ripe. That's what Christ said. The harvest is ripe. Pray for laborers. Go to Psalms chapter 30, verse 5.
The book of Psalms, chapter 30, verse 5. For his anger endureth but a moment.
In
In his favor is life.
his favor is life.
Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning.
The Most High is not going to be upset with us forever. We are in this state of being because the Most High is angry with us. And this is our judgment. This is our punishment. He says, it only endureth but for a moment. Okay? Go to Nehemiah chapter 8, verse 9.
Book of Nehemiah, chapter 8, verse 9. And Nehemiah, which is the
Tishrata
of Israel, the
and
priest,
Ezra the priest.
and Ezra, the priest, the scribe.
Yeah, Tishrata means governor. This means governor. Okay, go ahead.
And the Levites that taught the people said unto all the people, this day is holy unto the Lord your God. Mourn not,
Mourn not,
nor weep.
don't weep.
For all the people wept when they heard the words of the law.
See, we go out there, we give the law to the people. Bible says, hey, don't cry. You've done a beautiful thing today. Today is the Sabbath day. In the next coming days is a new moon. Today right now is July 29th. If you look up in the night sky, you see it's almost a full moon. I have to pull it up on the calendar and see what the actual date is, but upcoming is another high holy day. And the word to go out. He said, don't weep. For all the people wept when they heard the words of the law. Okay, so this is encouraging words to us. Okay, go to Psalms 102, verse 13 and 14.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 102 and verse 13. Thou shalt arise and have mercy upon Zion, for the time to favor her, yea, the set time is come. For thy servant take pleasure in her stone, and favor the dust thereof.
But the Lord, regardless of the enemy, right? I'm sorry. Regardless of what the enemy is doing to us, we understand that the Lord is coming. He's coming for Zion, for the mercies of Zion. Right? So again, what are these passages for? These passages are to encourage us. Because this right here brings us to heavy tears. This brings us to heavy tears. Okay? Go to Psalms 84, verse 1 and 2. Psalms chapter 84, verse 1 and 2.
The book of Psalms, chapter 84, and verse 1.
How?
How amiable are thy tabernacles, O Lord of hosts. My soul longeth, yea, even fainted for the courts of the Lord. My heart and my flesh crieth out for the living God.
My heart and my flesh crieth out for the living. Right. It's a friendly place. When we enter into the sanctuary of the Lord, this is a friendly place. This is a place we can be sure of. Where we can study God's word, where we can connect back to culture, where we can create social order, when we can create a way of life that is God ordained. From the food we eat, to the clothes we wear, the music we listen to, the wives we take, the way we raise our children. In this place, the tabernacle, we come to learn how to do these things as it is ordained by the Most High himself. Okay? Go to Psalms chapter 84, verse 10.
Psalms, the book of Psalms, chapter 84, verse 10. For a day in thy court is better than 1,000.
Than 1,000. One day in here in this place is better than 1,000 days. One day in this place, in the sanctuary of the Lord, where God's word is going forth, where teaching, instruction, and understanding is taking place, where fellowship among brethren and sisters and children is taking place. One day is better than 1,000. Read on.
Psalms 84 and 10. For a day in thy court is better than 1,000. I had rather be a bookkeeper.
A doorkeeper.
I had rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than to dwell in the tents of wickedness.
He says, I'd rather, let me work the door. Let me just be at the door greeting people, checking people, making sure that when they come in, they're not coming in with any kind of foolishness. He said, I'd rather be a doorkeeper than to be at the tents of wickedness, to be on the corner at the tents of wickedness, observing this craziness.
That's great.
Observing this craziness. That's what the Bible says. Okay? Go to Isaiah 62, 6 through 7.
Book of Isaiah, chapter 62, and verse 6. I have set a watchman upon thy walls, O Jerusalem, which shall never hold their peace day nor night. Yet that make mention of the Lord, keep not silence.
Ye that make mention of the Lord, keep not silence. You men that go out on the street corners, cry aloud and spare not, that the people will hear and repent. Read.
7. And give him no rest till he establish, until he make Jerusalem a praise in the earth.
See what the Bible says? Give him no rest. Give who? That wicked one no rest. Go out, you watchmen. Go out. Lift up your voice like a trumpet. Give him no rest until he established, until the Lord establish, until things are put back in order. Go to Zechariah chapter 11, verse 17.
The book of Zechariah, chapter 11, and verse 17. Woe to the idle shepherd that leaveth the flock.
Whoa, but to that one you have behind your computer screen. But to that one, you roll around in Rolls Royce. To that one, you allow the flock to do whatever they want to do. You say it's okay for two men to get married, for two women to get married. You say it's okay for an Israelite to marry someone who is not an Israelite. Woe to the idle shepherd. Destruction to the idle shepherd that leaveth the flock. Read on.
Woe to the idle shepherd that leaveth the flock. The sword shall be upon his arm.
The sword shall be upon his arm. Death comes to you, idle shepherd. Read.
And upon his right eye.
Look at that. We are taking you out and we are going to take you through the meat grinder. Read.
His arm shall be clean dried up, and his right eye shall be utterly darkened.
Utterly darkened. Okay. Go to Isaiah chapter 41, verse 17.
Book of Isaiah, chapter 41, and verse 17. When the poor and the needy seek water, and there is none, and their tongue filleth for thirst, I, the Lord, will hear them.
When we are out there and the people are saying, I always wondered, thank you. Thank you. And they began to tear up. We've seen the eyes tear up. He says, when the poor and needy seek water and there is none, and their tongue faileth for thirst, read.
I, the God of Israel.
I, the Lord.
Okay.
I, the Lord.
Starting that. Okay. I, the Lord, will hear them.
I, the Lord, will hear them. So here come the men of the Lord giving the word. We asked the sister today, have you seen us on this corner before? No, you guys about to be blah, 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 blah. Nah, okay. In other words, there are multiple groups. It may not be children of Israel, but there are Israelites out there giving the word.
That's right.
Go on, continue.
and the Lord will hear them. And the God of Israel will not forsake them.
I, the God of Israel, will not forsake them. Okay. Go to Philippians chapter 1, verse 20.
The book of Philippians, chapter 1, and verse 20. According to my earnest expectation and my hope that in nothing I shall be ashamed, but that with all boldness as always, so now also Christ shall be magnified in my body, whether it be by life or by death.
Whether it be by life or by death, the way I'm going to conduct my life, the way I'm going to live my life, you're going to know that man right there follows Christ. And in death, if I should lose my life, Paul is saying, you're going to know that man right there was a man that followed Christ. So according to my earnest expectation and my hope concerning you, the children of Israel, that in nothing I shall be ashamed. I'm not ashamed of my skin color. I'm not ashamed of my hair, my nose. I'm not ashamed of none of these features. I'm not ashamed to pronounce, to declare that I am an Israelite of the tribe of Judah. I am not ashamed, but that with all boldness, as always, so now also Christ shall be magnified in my body. Okay. In the last scripture, go to 1 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 7 through 9.
Book of Thessalonians, chapter 3 and verse 9.
1 Thessalonians.
I'm sorry, 1 Thessalonians, chapter 3 and verse 7. Therefore, brethren, we are comfort over you in all our afflictions and distress by your faith.
So to all of you who are moving and operating according to the laws of the Most High God, the ordinances, the statutes of the Most High God, and yet it's a struggle. Life is a struggle. We are comforted over every last one of you by your faith to continue to walk this way. Read on.
8. For now we live, if ye stand fast in the Lord. For what thanks can we render to God again for you? For all the joy wherewith we joy for your sake before our God.
Before our God. All right. And with that, we hope that you got a good lesson out of this. Subscribe to the channel, share this message with somebody. And we hope to see you. Shalom. Most High in Christ bless.